Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you very much. I'm Laura, obviously not Isabella. Isabella, it's great to be here, and thank you for having us. We're in the presence of a true leader, and I would say icon in terms of creating content for platforms that are going to change the way we're seeing television, film, and media. In 2007, I was at Sundance Channel. I'm now running 2 networks for Discovery. But in 2007, when I was at Sundance Channel, Robert Redford and our team started talking about how can we tell stories across other platforms, digitally, on the web, and what would that entail, and what artists did we want to approach? Isabella was someone that I had long admired and had become friends with, and we approached her and said, Isabella, do you have ideas for creating new content for the web? She's an actress, a model, a director, creator, and was one of the first artists to look at the web, to look at digital content, and create original form. She's now created Green Porno. She created Seduce Me. On Planet Green, we recently ran Animals Distract Me. And she has a new project today, which we're going to talk about, called Mamas. But first, Isabella, why don't you give us a little bit of an artistic viewpoint of how Green Porno started for the web?
Well, I was delighted when Robert Redford and Sundance approached me. I always loved animals, and I wanted to make films about animals, but incredibly intimidated about making big films. But one of the things that Laura and Robert told me, it was to make short films for the internet. That gave me some courage. Short seemed easier. Also, I worked a lot in advertisement as a model, so I knew how to tell story fast. So I wrote my 1 minute, 2 minutes film called Green Porno. And one of the things that you recommended was to keep in mind the screen, because the screen might be a telephone screen, it can be or an iPhone, so it could be small. So to address that aesthetically. So we made images that were very simple, graphic, colorful, almost like animation. There are some in the back that we're showing some of the photos, telling where I transform myself always as different animals. I worked with a wonderful team, Rick Gilbert and Andy Bayer, who helped me create these costumes. And, you know, we were incredibly successful. We didn't expect it. We started with 8 short films, and we had so many hits.
It actually went to 18 shorts. In the first week, you had 5 million views. Isabella has been invited now to over 70 international film festivals from Berlin, Cannes, Toronto, Sundance, here in New York, Tribeca, and had the web blow up in terms of these Green Porno. And what's interesting is being a broadcaster is that we all of a sudden understood that creating content, you creating content for the web, had to be created and designed in a very different way. Recently, at the Wilsonian, during the Miami Biennale, Isabella was asked and commissioned to do an original installation and some additional talks and work. So this work is spreading all over and doing very, very well.
Yes, I think that just a simple beginning when we addressed the small screen and how to aesthetically make something that is clear and come across if you see it on a big flat television or in a small screen was incredibly successful. And I didn't expect the many 5 million hits, nor all the demands that came. The Green Porno now they are at the Museum of Natural History in London. They were shown at the Royal Ontario Museum. I was invited to talk to the Pew Foundation, the Audubon Foundation, the Monterey Aquarium. So it also became non-for-profit. It spread in direction I didn't expect, from museum to installation to talk shows. That's the power of the internet. What I didn't know, I thought I'll start something very small and try my attempt at directing. But the internet has an ability to penetrate and find, of course, the word porno might have helped.
We debated that for a while, didn't we?
But you know what? At Sundance, they had all these programs called greenhouses, and green transportation and green food, meaning organic. So I said, oh, you don't have Green Porno. And that's how the name came about. I was always interested in animals, but I know that most people are not interested in animals, but everybody's interested in sex. So I made my stories, my short stories, about the different ways animals reproduced.
And she's in every single one of them. Can you tell me, how was it received from the mainstream media, the press? You know, what kind of attention
we got incredible attention from the New Yorker to Playboy, from the New York Times to Science and Nature magazine. We ended up even having a deal with HarperCollins, who published a book on green porno, also another unexpected ramification of my little films.
So what's amazing is that these shorts have kind of crossed many platforms. But they're still the most popular.
Yeah, Jon Stewart, David Letterman. We did all the talk shows.
You also won 5 Webbies.
I won 5, 6. Was nominated 6 times, and I won 5 Webbies.
I think what's also really interesting about these pieces is that we always talk about how do you take content onto the web and then bring brands. This is the challenge. You know, as a broadcaster as well in this day and age, we're very interested in creating original, dynamic, creative content, such as the work you're doing, Isabella, and then finding like-minded partners. And that has been the journey that we're now on. I think maybe we'll show a few clips, and just, these are examples from 2 of the works, Green Porno and Animals Distract Me. And I think one of the most amazing things, Isabella, is that you have an eye and a sense of humor as no other artist.
Thank you. For many years, I worked as a model, so I know that the behind the scene in every documentary of interviews was fascinating. So that was my take on the behind the scene during a makeup session, and about all these creatures that live on our body. And the first example with the scientist Claudio Campagna was asked. Claudio Campagna is a biologist who works in Patagonia and has asked me to make some of the green porno to address some of the environmental problems with the ocean. And so we did it, and I included Ask Claudio Campagna, so he could give a 15-second message, very precise, about the environment. And he was delighted to have that because he thought that the environmental message is always doom and gloom, and my films are always very comical, scientifically correct, but comical.
And Animals Distract Me on Planet Green was perfect in terms of content and creation and idea. Let's talk about Mamas a little bit. I've asked Isabella what she's planning next, and she has a new project, a new short form. Why don't you describe?
Well, I would like to, I'm here to find partnership. I would like to talk about animal parenting. Green porno dealt with the different ways to procreate, have babies. Seduce Me dealt with the different ways animals court each other, from birds singing to deers fighting. And Mamas, it includes some papas, but Mamas are very involved with the upbringing of the babies. There are many, many strategies. Mamas, they are not always very sweet and self-sacrificing and patient. Mothering nature are very practical, decision makers, and there are so many different ways to be parenting. It's very amusing. And I would like to make a series called Mamas about how animals in nature take care of their offspring. And I would like to do it with the same aesthetic of green porno. And not because it's called Mama, it's going to be sweet. I have to warn you, it would have the same spice as green porno and Seduce Me, because those mamas are a little bit crazy.
I think one thing that's going to be important is your humor, and the fact that these will also have the factual details, scientific details correct, but be infused with that which we love.
Always my film have 2 reactions. One is laughter, followed by, oh, I didn't know that. And that's exactly the same thing that I want to communicate about Mama, especially about mamas, because nobody has really told much about maternal instinct besides how sweet and self-sacrificing we are. But we're not.
One last question I have for you, Isabella, is how do you think being an artist who's jumped from the big screen, theater, television, to the small screen, how has that changed the way you think of the work you're creating?
you know, for me it was interesting because I always wanted to make films about animals since I was 14 years old. But, you know, my father was an enormous director. My mother was a superstar. It was so intimidating. So the web, not anymore, but it seemed to be at the time small and secretive. Not anymore, I found out. But it gave me the courage. It opens new voices. And the short film format is fantastic. Silent movies started with the short film format, Chaplin, Buster Keaton. They were so successful, and people love it. I mean, we just even know it in YouTube with the amateur filmmaking that there is, how popular it is. And this television doesn't allow it anymore, not films. Everything has to be the half-hour-long television, and so much can be told in 2-3 minutes. So I like the short film format.
Thank you very much. We look forward to Mamas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.